A rusted farm axe head treated with a $3 powder, the orange flaking rust completely gone after 45 minutes. In its place, a dark blue-black coating bonded to the metal at the molecular level. That coating is not paint, not sealant. It used to be the rust itself. The rust didn't just stop, it became the protection. Across the world, rust quietly drains nearly $90 billion a year from the pockets of working farmers. Every season, steel implements that should last decades are tossed aside because orange corrosion ate through a plow's edge or seized up a tractor's hitch. The numbers are staggering. In the United States alone, the annual bill for rust-related repairs and replacements hovers around one-third of the $300 billion spent on agricultural equipment. That is not a rounding error. It is the difference between profit and loss for tens of thousands of farms. This is not just about a few lost bolts or the occasional broken blade. The USDA's Economic Research Service estimates that 10% of farm capital spending is devoted to fighting corrosion or swapping out rusted parts. And as equipment grows more complex, the cost of even a single failed component rises. A new disc harrow or combine header can set a farm back thousands, while downtime during planting or harvest can mean the loss of an entire crop cycle. For smaller operations, a single season of heavy rust can force hard choices, repair, replace, or risk running with compromised tools. The scale of loss is matched only by the frustration. Most hardware store solutions come in glossy bottles, promising to save your tools for $30 a pop. Yet the core chemistry inside is little different from what museum conservators have used for centuries, or what blacksmiths once mixed by hand. The real cost is not just the price tag on a new part. It is the slow erosion of practical knowledge, replaced by the idea that only a branded product can save your tools. For farmers, the stakes are simple. Reclaiming this lost method means keeping steel in the field and money in the bank. A cast iron skillet left with a tomato stain will often show a dark blue-black patch where the acid met the iron. A mug of strong black tea left to sit in an old enameled sink will leave behind a shadowy ring, stubborn against scrubbing. On the farm, runoff from oak leaves can stain barn hardware a deep smoky gray. These are not accidents, they are everyday evidence of a chemical reaction at work. Tannic acid meeting iron oxide to form ferric tannity. This is not just kitchen folklore or a quirk of hard water. The Canadian Conservation Institute, the authority trusted by major museums, has published protocols using this very reaction to stabilize iron artifacts. Their method, first outlined in 1813 by J.B.M. Coulomb, calls for a 3% tannic acid solution applied in thin coats to rusted metal. The result is a dense, insoluble film that bonds at the molecular level, blocking oxygen and moisture. The same chemistry that preserves a Civil War sword in a museum case can keep a tractor plow in the field for another decade. Commercial rust converters, those bottles lined up at the hardware store, rely on this identical reaction. Their safety data sheets list tannic acid as the primary active ingredient, sometimes under a trade name, but always at the core. The process is not just about hiding rust, it is about transforming it. The orange-brown iron oxide is converted into a stable protective layer. The science is simple, but there is a catch. The method only works if you leave a thin, porous layer of rust for the tannic acid to react with. Sanding down to bare metal defeats the purpose, and using tap water risks introducing chloride ions that can undermine the coating. Distilled water is essential, and thin coats are critical for a hard, lasting finish. What was once common knowledge passed from blacksmith to apprentice, from one generation of farmers to the next, has been buried beneath layers of branding and packaging. The chemistry has not changed, but access to the facts has. The proof is all around us, hiding in plain sight. Corroseal's safety data sheet, dated April 2023, lists tannic acid at 12% by weight, right alongside 15% phosphoric acid. The formula is spelled out in black and white, not buried in trade jargon or masked as a proprietary blend. Yet a 1-liter jug of Corosil retails for $25 to $60, depending on the supplier. Compare that to food-grade tannic acid powder, available from chemical suppliers or even Amazon, at $3 to $5 per 100 grams. That same 100 grams, when mixed to a 3% solution, covers more rusted steel than a full bottle of branded converter. The numbers don't lie. The core ingredient in the $60 jug is the same powder you can buy for the price of a cup of coffee. Safety data sheets for other major brands like CRC and Birchwood echo the same story. The active ingredient is plainly labeled as tannic acid, sometimes under the technical name hydrolyzable tannin. Where the law requires disclosure, the truth comes out. But in the U.S., manufacturers can hide behind trade secret exemptions. Labels swap in vague terms like tannin blend or drop the tannic acid entirely, even as the chemistry stays the same. The real cost isn't in the powder, it's in the markup, the packaging, and the illusion of proprietary science. Every time a farmer pays $30 for a bottle that could be mixed for a tenth of the price, that is money siphoned from the field to the shelf. The evidence is right there in the documents, ingredient for ingredient, ounce for ounce. The price difference is indefensible. By the middle of the 20th century, the farm supply aisle had become a battleground for attention. Shiny cans and bold-lettered bottles promised to make rust disappear with a single swipe. Convenience took center stage. Ads from the 1950s and the 1960s showed cheerful families restoring tools with miracle liquids. No mention of chemistry, just a promise of effort-free results. The language was clear: leave the old ways behind, trust the brand, and buy again next season. Generational know-how, once passed from blacksmith to apprentice, began to fade. The wisdom of mixing oak bark, tea, or tannin-rich brews was replaced by the ritual of grabbing a new product off the shelf. Manufacturers had a motive. A recurring sale is worth far more than a one-time solution. By bottling up what had been common practice and cloaking it in proprietary blends, they built a dependable market. Older craftsmen who once taught their children to spot the deep blue-black of a well-treated plow found their skills dismissed as outdated. The result was a generational break, a lost thread connecting practical chemistry to everyday survival on the farm. What had been a birthright became a branded secret, sold back at a premium. Start with 4 grams of food-grade tannic acid powder, the same compound listed at 12% in Corosil's safety data sheet and the backbone of every serious rust converter. Dissolve it in exactly 100 milliliters of warm distilled water. Tap water is off the table. Even trace chloride ions can sabotage the reaction and undermine your hard work. Stir until the powder vanishes and the liquid turns the color of strong tea. For deeper corrosion, add a teaspoon of navel jelly, about 5 milliliters, bringing the phosphoric acid content up to the 10% sweet spot museum conservators use for iron artifacts. There is no sanding to bare metal, no harsh grinding. The method depends on a thin, even layer of porous rust for the chemistry to work. Wipe away loose flakes with a wire brush, but leave the fine orange film in place. Dip a foam brush or cotton rag into the solution and apply a thin coat, just enough to dampen the surface. Within 10 to 15 minutes, the color will shift from orange to a smoky blue-black as ferric tannate forms. Let it dry completely, 2 to 4 hours, before repeating for a second pass. Thin coats are essential. Thick layers will peel or stay tacky. Once dry, seal with linseed oil or a rubberized undercoat for maximum protection. The science is straightforward, but the details matter. Distilled water, thin coats, and patience are the steps that turn a $3 powder into a decade of rust-free service. 12 years ago, a battered hay rake was treated with nothing but a tannic acid solution and a coat of linseed oil. Today, its tines still hold a faint blue-black sheen, the only sign of age, a soft patina instead of deep pitting. That's the promise and the proof. When the chemistry is right, the results last far beyond a single season. Farmers who have tried this method report 5, 10, even 12 years of use without a hint of fresh rust. University extension trials echo these stories. Axes and plowshares, once written off as scrap, return to work year after year with only a thin, stable film where orange corrosion once spread. But no method is perfect. The reaction depends on a porous layer of rust. Strip down to bare metal and you lose the chemistry that makes ferric tannate possible. Use tap water and you invite chloride ions to undermine the coating from within. Thick, sloppy coats will peel or stay tacky. Only thin, even layers bond tight enough to block moisture and oxygen. For a final seal, boiled linseed oil, beeswax, or a rubberized undercoat all work, each with its own trade-offs in gloss and abrasion resistance. The science is sound, but the details matter. Skip a step or cut a corner and the protection fades. Done right, the proof is in the field. A tool that outlasts its branded replacement at a fraction of the cost. Today, tannic acid is still the core ingredient in top rust converter brands, yet most farmers pay 10 times more for a label. Museum conservators convert rust to protection, not paint. Ignore the branding. Use distilled water. Do not strip down to bare metal and apply a thin coat. Generational knowledge was never meant to be patented.